peacock o'clock time. We are going to attempt to do baby number one's labor story. And I'm running low on battery, so hope it works, and hopefully she doesn't keep attacking things. So, first mom. He gave me my first experience here, and yeah. So my firstborn his due date was June 1st. Everything went pretty well. I feel like your first is semi-easy because you can sleep if you are tired, and you can be lazy. I had a job that kept me busy enough so I wasn't super lazy, but I didn't have to take care of the kids, which is really nice when you're pregnant. And I was fairly sick, mostly morning. So me in pregnancy, I have to eat. If I don't eat, I will feel sick, but eating makes me feel sick. So it's that hard mix that I have to try to figure out. And so a lot of times I'll get sick because I didn't want to eat, but because I didn't eat, now I'm sick. And that's really hard. And all of my pregnancies have been that way. Yay! But I did figure out mostly that if I got up, I needed to eat right away. And I could not eat yogurt. That was my go-to for a while. But yogurt, I do like Go-Gurt just because I needed to fill my stomach up so quick. But milk things so straight on an empty stomach was not good. And once I figured that out, the sicknesses in the morning tapered back a little bit. I also realized that when I got up and ready right away and not just was lazy, that I was a little better too. And it took me a while to figure it out. And where'd you put my book? Oh, here it is. So, but we figured it out. And where are we here? So I had an appointment on my due date or near my due date, like 2 days before my due date or whatever. And I was 80% effaced and 1 centimeter dilated. I cried so hard when I left that appointment because his due date was like the next day. And the doctor was like, yeah, he was probably not going to come on his due date. Like, you're probably going to be late. And to hear that when you're just so done and fat was hard. And so I made another appointment just in case, like they say. Thankfully, it didn't take a whole nother week and I had to come back. So, June 2nd at midnight, I woke up to contractions. We went to the hospital around 7 a.m. and we got sent home at 1 because I was like, I think I got to a 3 and I walked and I did all of this stuff to help dilate more, but because it'd been so long and I still wasn't dilating a lot, they sent me home. All the nurses were like, I am so sorry, he's a guy, he doesn't get it. They felt so bad he was sending me home. Because the thing is, I was having consistent contractions that I could not breathe through. And after I walked, it didn't do anything, but it made them even more back-to-back contractions. But he still sent me home. And I get why he did, but I couldn't breathe. I got no break. My contractions were so back-to-back that I couldn't sleep. They gave me medicine to like try to lessen the pain, which did diddly squat. My mom had come in. This was at LDS Hospital in Salt Lake City, Utah. So my mom drove 45 minutes in to come see me and and help out. And so she got here. I said, okay, but they're gonna send me home, but she helped me. And we got food in me because gosh, not eating is rough, and then I feel sick when I can finally eat after having a baby. So I ate on my little break, which I guess was kind of nice. But I went back, so we got back home around 1, and we lived really close to the hospital, and we went back at 3 because I was like, it was so consistent. I was not relaxing. I was in so much pain. I wasn't really getting rest. And so he let me come back in, and they gave me an epidural so that we could calm my body down and give my body a break from so many contractions back to back. And later they gave me a Pitocin and broke my water. So this was at 11:45 at night. So this has been a whole, at the end of it all, 24 hours. So from starting getting the contractions to having him. And my mom with me was in labor for 24 hours. So she got her "you deserve what I've been through" moment. I had to go through it. Thankfully, I had my mom and my husband, which we did find out later in those moments that my husband does not accidentally looked, and he shouldn't have, because blood makes him kind of, which I didn't know, and he didn't know it'd be so bad. And between not a lot of sleep and not a lot of food, because we've been there so long, it was a rough mix. So thankfully my mom was there to also help and support me. I started to push at midnight, 12:23, and at 11:45 we started to push, and at 12:23 you were born. I remember the doctor's like, "Oh, he'll probably be here by 1 or 2," and I was like, "No, I am getting him here before that. I'm not waiting any longer." So I did. I got him there, 12:23, and so he was like a day and a couple hours late of his due date. So thankfully not super long. Can you go play? So I cried with him. I should mention, I didn't cry with my second because it was so quick. There was not a ton of stuff, but I was so tired, so done, so ready to meet him that I cried. And I was like, "I'm so sorry I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying." I'm not a crier, so not in front of people. And so he was finally here, and so I did the whole on my chest and then the delayed cord clamping. But he wasn't breathing super well, so I vaguely remember, I think they took him before a full hour on me because they didn't like how he was breathing. And my mom went over with them while he weighed him and stuff. He was 7 pounds 8 ounces. Jackson was 6'8", and Emma was 8'1". So I went from 7, 6, 8. And but he was average weight. And I remember hearing my mom, "He has your toes," and I'm like, "What do you mean he has my toes?" I have web toes between these two on my toes, both feet, and so Isaac has that. Jackson actually has that a little bit too, and Emma doesn't really have it as much as they do, but they all kind of have some degree of it, so that's cute. So that was cute. My mom stayed for a tiny bit, and then she left because she'd been there for a long time. And they wheeled me to recovery and stuff. Now this is where I don't love so much. One, I liked that I got the epidural because there was no way I could have made it through. And I tried breastfeeding, and that was actually really hard. And he cried a lot because my milk wasn't coming in. He was starving. He was losing a lot of weight. So we did pump and do formula for him for 6 months, and then I quit. But when we were in the recovery room, which is a very small room, which is fine. Thankfully, Spencer was with me. we had a moment where the nurse came in to do their routine checkups on the baby. And she was checking him in, and while she was doing that, he started turning blue. And she quickly said something like he's turning blue or he's not breathing or something, and rushed him to take care of him. And as a parent, especially a first-time parent, you're sitting there and you're freaking out because you're like, what if she hadn't been in and it was happening, you know, before she came in? Would I have noticed? Because he was in his basket thing, we weren't holding him. And what's wrong? Because they're not telling you anything, you have to wait. And so we're sitting there and freaking out and waiting, and I have no idea how long it was. Everything's a blur after you have a baby anyways, and during, and freaking out. So when they did come back, she said something like, between him trying to poop and cough up junk, he had like amniotic fluid or whatever in his lungs. Between all of that, he was choking, and his little body was just doing too much at once. And so when he came back, I was so glad he was okay. I really didn't want to hold him because I was so afraid that, well, the main thing is I was like, if something happens, I'm not going to be able to help. I'm not going to be able to help him. And I didn't want to hold him because it was just too scary, and I didn't want it to happen while I was holding him, and I really should have held him though. But I was like wanting to run away from what was scary, and holding him was scary at that moment. So my husband held him, and I think at one point when they were just talking to me about it, I started crying, and because it was just so unknown, and I didn't know what was happening, and would it happen again, and will he live? Because you hear of all these stories where they don't. Anyways, long story, I put him short. I gave him to the nursery that night because I wanted to be able to sleep without worrying about missing something bad happening. So we did have a break there, which was really needed for me. And then it happened a little bit when we took him home too, which was really scary. But we had a suction thing that worked, and I loved him a ton, but I really hated him at times because he cried a lot. Once we figured that he was kind of starving and we gave him formula that filled him up, it happened less often. So he just needed food, and he struggled pooping, which didn't help, and we got it all figured out, but he did. He cried a lot, and still to this day, I'm like, oh, he didn't cry that much, but my husband's like, no, Holly, he cried a lot. He did, and we lived with my parents for 3 months, so that was kind of helpful. And then we bought a house, and so during those few months, I had a little help every so often, and we made it. We survived. He's great. He's such a good kid. He's 5 now. But that is my crazy first birth story, and it did not go how I planned at all. And I'm not super upset, but you know, there are moments that I regret little things, and that's gonna happen. So anyways, I will end there. So bye.